I know, everyone knows there are people online that are telling you how to respond to different interview questions. And if you actually stay and research all of those questions, you'll see that there are a lot of them, like hundreds of questions. And of course, the problem with it is that you actually don't have the time to prepare for all of the questions. Now, I'll tell you a secret from the recruitment world. Let's say all of those questions, they are paired and grouped to assess a specific dimension of your personality or maybe your work experience or anything like that. And in today's video, I wanted to talk with you about these dimensions and tell you that it's important to prepare for the dimensions that will be assessed during an interview and not for each question that assesses that specific dimension, because your answer should be the same for all of them. Hi, my name is Cornelia. I usually post videos about corporate environment and also how to get a job, what to say, not to say in job interviews, how to construct your CV, etc. In today's video, I wanted to speak with you a little bit about the dimensions that are assessed during an interview. And here I'm referring to interviews that are conducted by agile recruiters, so not the technical interviews that usually the people have to do to assess their skills in their professions. We assess different dimensions of your personality, of your skills, of your values, etc. And all of those dimensions can be assessed by different questions. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about 10 dimensions, which I think that are the most assessed in an interview. So let's start with the first dimension, which I think is the most important one. And usually all of the recruiters start assessing this one. And this is the motivation dimension. Everyone, every interviewer, every company wants to see that you are motivated to work for their company or for that specific job. So you'll have a lot of questions regarding your preference or let's say your motivation to apply for that specific job or company. And some of the questions will be: why did you apply for this job? What motivates you to apply for this job? How would you imagine your dream job? Tell me 3 things that sound interesting in the job description that made you apply for this job. Why would you like to work for our company? So the way that you answer to all of the questions is similar, right? When you are describing your dream job or when you are describing different things that you liked about the company, you are basically telling them things that will motivate you to work in that specific job, right? And when you are thinking about these 2 questions, what motivates you to apply to this position or why did you apply for this role? The answers for them are in fact exactly the same, right? You need to tell 1, 2, 3 things that you actually liked about the job description that fit, let's say, your goals in terms of career, and you'll only have to prepare a single answer for maybe all of them and just, adapt it a little bit based on the nuance of the question. The next dimension is the values dimension. The interviewer would like to know that you have values similar with the ones of the companies. The fact that companies follow different values and so on, if you actually read the values to each company that you are applying to, you'll see that they're the same. For example, being oriented to customers, right? I mean, all of the consultancy companies have this thing written there, even if it's named like customer delight or custom focus or custom savvy, stuff like that. And some of the questions from this dimension will be: what will be the value that describes you the most and why? What do you value in yourself or what do you value in yourself and others? Who is your role model and why? Why is the value that you like the most from our company values and why? And if you ever had the time where you have to do an activity that went against your values at work. So yeah, these will be some of the questions, and if you think about it, you can answer for them in similar ways by just saying some of the values that you already have that will be a match of the values that the company can have as well. The next dimension is cultural fit and environment. This is something that every recruiter assesses, especially if the environment is challenging. Just to translate you what a challenging environment means in a company, it means that the work environment is a little bit chaotic and the priorities change all the time. And this is especially when companies don't have a specific revenue or a stable revenue, and they rely a lot on investors or maybe on the clients that they have. So yeah, this is something very volatile, and a lot of companies have this type of challenging environment. The challenging environment has other benefits as well. For example, you can learn and develop a lot in a short amount of time. Some of the questions that they might ask: what are 3 most important factors for you at work? How would you describe a successful company culture? What were the things that you liked about your previous work environment or the things that you didn't like about your previous work environment? What is the type of environment that you prefer? and what are your pet peeves? To think about all of these questions, the way that you respond to them is similar. You just need to answer with the things that you either like or that you would prefer, and the ones that you don't like at a specific workplace. Moving forward to organizational skills. So organizational skills is a dimension that a lot of interviewers are assessing because no company would like to hire another person to take care of your responsibilities. They would like for you to be organized and to prioritize, this is a very important word, your activities in a specific day, in a specific week, or any other time frame. They want for you to see that you are able to recognize what are the priorities that you have and do them first, and then, of course, cascade all of the other activities that you need to do in a specific time frame. Some of the questions that you'll have there will be: how do you normally organize your task at work? Describe a typical day at work for you. Have you ever had a time when the priorities change in the middle of a day, a project, a specific time frame? And what have you done in that situation? How do you actually prioritize your work? What is your working style? If you think about all of the questions, the answers that you actually need to write for all of them will be about the fact that you can organize your work in a specific manner and that you prioritize activities that are important. Moving forward to work experience, this is a dimension that the recruiter wants to assess just because they would like to see that the things that you are saying in an interview are a match with the things that you already written in your CV. I know that a lot of candidates get really upset about this because they're like, okay, I've already written in my CV everything that you are asking about my work experience. So what's the situation? Why would you like me to say it once more? That's why, because they want to see that you have a match from what you are saying and what is written in your CV. Another reason why recruiters are asking in the HR interview about it is because they want to see if you actually done other things that are not written in your CV. For example, there are a lot of people that don't actually know how to write their CVs, or they think that they need to write other things that are not really that important for a specific job. So that's why the recruiters are asking different things, because they might assume that you've already done that, but it's not written in your CV. So they would like to have these specific questions just for them to understand that you actually have done that activity that is asked from the requirement side of the job, that for some reason it's not appearing in your CV. And some of the questions about this will be: describe yourself, or walk me through your resume. What is your biggest achievement at work? What were the main responsibilities at your last workplace? What can you bring to the company? They assess a part of your work dimension. And here I wanted to do a special mention about describe yourself sentence. In this sentence, you need to describe your work experience. They don't want from your side to describe your hobbies, your interests, your personality, things about your family. No, they would like from your side to actually say things that are related to work. Moving forward to personality and skills, this is in fact the dimension where your personality is assessed, and usually this depends a lot on the requirements of the position. If the position requires for a person that is adaptable and flexible, you'll have a lot of questions about this part, yeah? If they are required a person that is very communicative or extroverted, likes to speak with people, is sociable and so on, you'll have a lot of questions that will be about this part. How do you communicate? If you like speaking with people. So yeah, there will be a lot of questions regarding to a specific personality trait that the recruiter would like from the candidate to have. Of course, that is a requirement of that specific job. I prepared some of the questions that will be more general about your personality in general, and some of them will be: what are your strengths or weaknesses? Why should we hire you? What makes you unique? How would your manager or colleagues or friends describe you? What should I know that is not written in your resume? And I wanted also to do here a special mention about the last question. What should I know, or what can you tell me that is not already written in your resume? Here, your answer should be about a project or a thing that you've done in your personal life that is kind of related to your work. For example, if you are a software developer, you can tell them about a project that you've done in your free time where you've done your own site, or for example, you help your friend that has a small business to do their site. Or another thing that you can write here is about volunteering programs that are not written in your CV. Another type of answer that you can use here will be about a specific achievement that you have in your personal life. For example, if you play sports, volleyball, football, basketball, etc., you can tell them about a time when your team won. For example, your team morale was low, and you motivate them and help them to actually finish the game, and at the end of the game you actually won. So this assess mainly your personality and things that are from your personal life. It will be great if they can be related to your work experience, but if they aren't related to your work experience, you can at least tell them something about an interesting situation or a situation where you have a personal achievement. Communication style. In this dimension, the recruiter would like to see the fact that you can actually communicate different problems and that you can do it in a polite manner. So some of the questions that you'll have here will be, how do you approach a conflict with a coworker? What would you do in a situation when you don't agree with your manager? Describe your communication styles. What makes a team effective? And usually when you have any questions about team performance, about how you actually work well in a team, the answer should always contain something about the communication and collaboration, because this is actually what makes a team effective. And the last time will be about your interaction with a difficult stakeholders or client or manager. So yeah, they might also ask about this thing and what have you done in that situation where the person that you actually had to speak with was very difficult to communicate with. Leadership and ownership. On the leadership part, of course, if you apply for managerial roles or team lead kind of positions, you'll have a lot of questions about management and leadership. They will ask what is your leadership style, or what is a leadership style that you don't like, or the leadership style that you actually like. They might also ask about how would you lead a difficult team, or how would you help the employees that will be in your team to develop themselves. You'll also be asked about ownership. And this is something that the recruiter would like from you to understand, that you are able to be responsible, fully responsible for a specific project that you need to do. And they might ask questions like, have you ever initiated a project, or if you ever led a project by yourself? So yeah, these will be some of the questions that will most of the times be asked, because a lot of companies would like from your side to be the fully responsible of a project and to be independent and do independent work, especially if you are not a junior and you are applying for a mid to senior role. Resilience, another dimension which is almost always assessed. All of the interviewers would like from you to know that you can manage stress. And if you had like bad times, if you have a failure, or if you've done a mistake, they would like from you to know that you can actually manage your emotions, your negative emotions about a specific situation, that you can learn from that specific bad experience, and that you can improve it or repair it somehow. You will have a lot of questions related to failure and mistakes. So they might ask if you ever had a failure and if you can let them know about it. And when you have this type of question, you actually need to tell them, how did you repair that situation? Then they might also ask about a mistake. To tell me about a situation when you have done a mistake at work. Then they will ask about stress. How would you manage your stress? Or tell me some of the coping mechanisms that you normally use to manage your stress at work. Another thing will be about, tell me about a time when you had to work under pressure. Or what would you do if you need to deliver a project and the deadlines are very small? So yeah, these will be some of the things that they might ask about pressure, stress, and failures and mistakes that you've done, and how have you dealt with all of these situations. The last dimension that I wanted to speak about is retention. This is something that a lot of companies want to check during the recruitment process, to see that if you actually want to stay in a specific job more than, 3, 4, 5 years. And this is very important because every recruitment process costs money, and that time where we have to find for a replacement for a person that left is actually very costly for the company. That's why they would like from the candidate to know that they actually have in mind to stay in that company for a longer period of time, so they can actually get the investment that they have in the trainings of that specific employee and all of the other things that a company has to do, and pay money for a new employee to actually start and be performant in a specific company. Some of the questions will be here about your career development, your goals, and when they ask about your goals, they never ask about your personal goals, so you have here to say something related to work and your professional life, and how much do you plan to stay in a specific company, or what will be your plans after a certain amount of time. For example, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Is a question that actually assesses the retention. What success means for you, or how would you define success? How do you see yourself evolving in this role? How do you plan to achieve your career goals? And what are your future goals? So yeah, as you see, there are a lot of questions about your development within that specific role in that company. There are a lot of candidates that lie about this. And let's be serious, in the Western countries, no one stays in a company more than 5 years, because this is actually a bad decision for the employee, right? They will actually lose money, because if they get a salary raise, the salary raise would be smaller in comparison with the situation when the candidate will switch companies. And at the same time, you can actually learn all of the things related to your specific job in a company in maximum 3 years. If you still want to develop yourself, right, you will actually need to switch companies, so you can be exposed to other situations, other challenges, and so on, that can actually help you learn new skills and grow yourself professionally. If you stay in a company for a lot of years, you'll have the same situations, the same tasks most of the times. You won't have this opportunity to grow after, 5, 6 years in a specific company. But yeah, now it really depends on yourself as well. If you like this idea of stability, and if you, for example, would like to stay in a company for longer than those specific 5 years or 6 years, it's totally fine. Things are depending on your goals, your personality, and what you actually want to do in that specific company, right? And also on the company, maybe there are a lot of companies that are fast changing, and you'll have a lot of other opportunities to grow even after 5-6 years in that specific company. So yeah, this will be all from my side. I hope this video helped you a little bit in preparing for the interview and not get overwhelmed about the fact that you have to prepare answers for hundreds of questions before an interview. It's very important to understand that each question that the recruiter asks is not a question that they just want to ask you. It's a question that assesses a specific dimension that is required for that specific job. So yeah, this is something that you need to be aware of and better prepare for a specific dimension and recognize the question that the interviewer is asked for you to understand that that question in fact assess a specific dimension, and of course respond in the matter that you already prepared for that specific interview. And don't forget to check one of my other videos where I speak about behavioral and situational questions. Thank you so much. Bye.